Good morning and welcome to MCC Online. We are so glad that you guys have joined us this morning. If you're a guest with us, then thank you for spending part of your morning watching us online. We are honored that you're here. We'd love to know that you are here. So if you wouldn't mind going to our website, monettecommunity.church, click the contact tab. There's a place you can kind of just give us a little bit of information. We'd love to make a connection with you this week. Hey, if you're watching us online as well during this time, we would love for you to let us know about that as well. So if you wouldn't mind just snapping a picture of you watching service online with you, your family, your dog, your cat, your goldfish, we don't care. Snap a picture, post it online, tag us at Monette Community Church, and we would love just to see some of the ways you guys are interacting with God during this time as we are a church that's virtual and online. We're glad you're with us. Hey, one of the things, too, we are so excited about, we've been sending out some Facebook and social media announcements about this, but starting today, immediately following service, actually, there was some links posted on our social media because we're launching an MCC online store. And on this store, through Adrenaline Apparel, you'll be able to purchase MCC shirts, MCC hats. There's several different designs, several different colors. We would love for you to go out there and order that, but don't wait too long. There's only a 2-week window that this will be open. And we would love for you to buy some of your MCC swag. There's some things we'll be doing in the future with that. So get out there, purchase it. You'll be able to go to Adrenaline and pick it up with curbside service, or for a small fee, they'll ship it to you if you don't feel like getting out and it being non-essential. But guys, we are so glad you're with us here today. Get ready to prepare your hearts, prepare your minds as we zero in and focus on this God who loves us and wants us to live the way of love, the most excellent way.
This is the day that you have made. Whatever comes, I won't complain. For all my hope is in your name, and now your joy awaits my parade. Give thanks for all you have done, and I will sing of your mercy and your love. Your love is unfailing. Lord, I am grateful. When I was down, you brought me out. You set my feet on high ground. So here I stand. You are my God, your faithfulness, my solid rock. Give thanks for all you have done. Now we'll sing of your mercy and your love. Your love is unfailing. Lord, I am grateful. I give thanks for all you have done. I won't forget all the battles you have won. Your love Good morning, MCC. I'm glad that you've joined us this morning online. Thank you for coming along with us here. In fact, why don't you go ahead when you get a minute here in the comment section or whatever platform you're watching on, and let us know something that you are grateful for right now. It could be anything. Whatever you're grateful for in this time, let us know. We want to engage with you in this. So sing with us the song, King of Kings.
In the darkness, we were waiting without hope and without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word from a throne of endless glory to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise
watching on the TV in your bedroom, you're in your living room, you're watching on your phone. God is there with you. He's among us here. He's amongst you and yours. We can worship Him in the Spirit. Even though we can't physically be together, we still worship a God who makes a way. So we're going to sing that this morning. We're going to declare that God is the way maker. So sing with us. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you. I worship you. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 That is who you are.
Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light
a waymaker. Lord, what the enemy has meant for his victory right now, God, we know that you are absolutely using this for your glory. And more than that, Lord, we know that you have already overcome. You have already succeeded. The enemy is defeated. God, this victory is yours. Father, I ask that you just be with each of us, Lord. As we're all facing struggles right now, some of us just being stuck at home, some of us still working. Lord, and I ask that your hand of protection just be over us, Lord, that you just guide us in these moments, Lord, that you just work in our lives, that you touch us where we need to, Lord, and that you just bring us to our knees, God, so that we come to you, Lord, that we submit to you, that we humble before you, God, and we just proclaim your name because you are the way maker. Lord, I ask that you be with Todd as he brings this message today, God. I ask that hearts just be vulnerable. Lord, let ears be open, God, and let us just hear you. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather, even though we're at home doing this by ourselves, Lord. Let us be reminded that we are gathering together, Lord, and just unite us in this time together, God. Spirit, come, continue to work. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Well, this is week 2 of the most excellent way. And when we're talking about the most excellent way, we're talking about the most excellent way to live, to do life, to do work, to do home, to do school, to do our community. And the most excellent way to live is the way that Jesus demonstrated and the way Jesus taught, which is to live by love. But love can be one of those really confusing things because so many times when we think about love, we think about that emotion. We think about the quiver in the liver. We think about, the warm fuzzies and the butterflies. And while those aren't bad things, I mean, love as an emotion is a phenomenal thing. But while it's not a bad thing, it's not a firm enough thing. It's not a strong enough thing to be the foundation for the most excellent way. And so really, when we're talking about love as the most excellent way, we're talking about love as an action, love as a verb, love as behaviors. In fact, our friends, the Greeks, they would use the word agape. And agape love is a decision. Agape love is a choice that we make. Agape love is a set of behaviors. And because of those behaviors, we can have a foundation of the most excellent way. In fact, here's the way we defined the most excellent way last week. We said that agape love is a set of behaviors that we all need to have healthy relationships regardless of how we feel. And agape love is the foundation for just the greatest relationships that human beings are capable of. Agape is about the values that we embrace as a way of life. In fact, with agape, we can emotionally not be happy with someone. We can emotionally not be pleased with someone. But we can still love them because agape, because love is a set of behaviors that we all need to have healthy relationships regardless of how we feel. Now, Jesus lived his whole life demonstrating agape love. He demonstrated, he taught it. And then after Jesus' death, his burial, resurrection, after his ascension to heaven, a little bit later on, the Apostle Paul wrote a letter to a church he had started in a city called Corinth. And we call it 1 Corinthians. Imagine that. It's the first letter that he wrote to this church in Corinth. And in this letter, he kind of outlined what it really looked like to live with this set of behaviors that we all need to have healthy relationships. And in this, as we looked at last week, he kind of laid a foundation for us. He said, this is the most excellent way to live. But as we look at the most excellent way to live, he said some of the foundational things that we need is, one, we have to realize that it's not just what we say, but it's how we say it. In fact, as well, when it comes to agape love, it's not just what we do, but it's why we do it. Well, then after he says those things, Paul launches into 15 different behaviors. 15 different things that just make up and all a part of the most excellent way to live, which is agape. And today, as we continue in the series, we're just going to look at the very first one. The first one that he launched into to really say, hey, you want to live the most excellent way? Here is the most excellent way to live. And here's the verse that we threw out there, 1 Corinthians. You're in verse 12, and we'll go into verse 13. It says, and now, he says, I will show you the most excellent way. And then he goes, love is patient. Love is patient. You know, and for patience, for a lot of people, it's one of those things that can be one of the most challenging aspects of life for so many of us. I mean, I definitely know that it is for me. We can be impatient waiting in the line at the grocery store. We can be impatient sitting in the drive-through line at McDonald's. We can be impatient at the doctor's office. We can be impatient waiting for that stimulus check to hit our bank account or for the stay-at-home order to get over. We can get impatient with those types of things. And while we do need patience in our circumstances, we need patience in those circumstances, this is not the type of patience that the Apostle Paul was talking about here. Because the Greek word that he used for patience was really a word that exclusively was used in the Bible for patience with people. Being patient with people, not our circumstances, not our events, but being patient with people. And truthfully, and this is just me being real with you guys, this is one of those things that can be a challenge for me. I'm a pretty driven guy. There's certain things, especially when it comes to church and reaching people for Jesus, that, man, I can just get so passionate and so fired up about that. There are times in my life that when I see the goal line, when I see where we need to go and how we need to go there, there's times that I don't have the patience that I should have with the people around me as we get to moving that direction. It's something I'm aware of, something I'm continually trying to work on in my life. But I also don't think I'm alone in that. I think a lot of us can struggle at times with patience. You know, we can struggle at times with patience with our kids. I mean, as we're sheltering in place, you can have those thoughts of, if I hear the Paw Patrol theme song one more time, I'll go crazy. Or maybe you're thinking, man, if I got to watch Miranda Sings on YouTube one more with my kids, it's not going to happen. Or maybe it's just mom, 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 mom. Maybe it's just stuff like that. And it's just getting on your every last nerve, and your patience are wearing thin. We can be impatient with that person when we're shopping that's not observing the social distancing and they're coughing on our back. We can become very impatient with that. We can be impatient when we're texting with someone and we text them and then the little thing pops up that says read, but they're not responding back to us. Even though they've read our text, we're going, why aren't they responding to us? They've read the text. We can be impatient with people in that. We become impatient with that coworker, that employee that we've told 1,000 different times how to do the job, but then they keep messing it up and messing it up and messing it up. And in those situations, it's very easy for us not to be as patient with people as we should be. You know, the New King James translation of the Bible says this verse, this love is patient. They use the term long-suffering. And long-suffering and patient really are kind of interchangeable terms, but here's what long-suffering means. It means having or showing patience in times of trouble, especially with people. And so the basic idea with this behavior that feeds into agape, this behavior that feeds into agape love, is that you and I, that me, having the ability to be inconvenienced, having the ability to even be taken advantage of without us getting upset, without us getting angry. Now, truthfully, that may be one of those things that you hear that and go, whatever. I mean, it creates a tension in you. Truthfully, it creates a tension in me. It's so countercultural. It's so counterintuitive to what we really want it to be. But look what Jesus said here in Matthew 5:39. He says, but I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other to him also. It's the idea when we're driving down the interstate and someone cuts us off and it makes us angry, and instead of giving them the international sign of displeasure, we just choose to do nothing in that. It's the idea of that neighbor who's continually borrowing your tools and borrowing your tools and borrowing your tools to the point that when you need your tools, you've got to go across the street to get your tools. It's the idea of that teenager that won't do their homework as they, learn and do homeschooling and are on the calls and are doing all the stuff online. They won't do it, but they just continually want to play the video games. Or maybe that teenager that you find the pack of cigarettes in their backpack, or maybe even something worse, or maybe you find something on their phone or the computer that was just inappropriate for them to be looking at. It's those situations that we can get upset and not get angry. And even as I say that, understand this. As I say that, you have to understand, patience doesn't mean that there isn't discipline involved here. Patience doesn't mean that there isn't correction, but what it's more about is how do we respond? In what way do we respond to people? In what way do we respond? What behaviors do we exhibit as we respond to that person? In fact, here's the definition of patience. We'll throw it up here on the screen. Patience is behaving with self-control in difficult situations with people. Is behaving with self-control in difficult situations. And the key here, as far as what we're talking about today, with people. Now, as difficult as that may seem to you and I, as challenging as that can be for me personally, to the audience that the Apostle Paul was writing this with, this would have been a flip their world upside down type of statement. Because in their culture, in their society, vengeance wasn't just something they did. It was expected. I mean, if someone did something wrong to you, if someone wronged you or hurt you or made you angry or made you upset, they expected you to retaliate. They expected you to get back. In fact, if you didn't get vengeance in that situation, they actually viewed it as a sign of weakness. But in agape, in the most excellent way, love is patient. It's behaving with self-control in situations, in difficult situations with people. And again, I want to emphasize this. We'll talk more about this a little bit later. It's not about ignoring poor behavior. It's not about letting poor behavior go. It's about being patient with how we respond to poor behavior. It's not about letting poor behavior go. It's about being patient in how we respond, the behaviors we use to respond. Because it's about us developing behaviors for us to develop people, as opposed to us developing behaviors where we diminish people. It's about developing, not diminishing. Why? Because agape. Because it is the most excellent way. Now, to try to explain this, or maybe give you some better illustration of this, I want to look at one of the relationships that Jesus Christ had in his public ministry here on earth. In fact, you could go as far as saying to argue it's probably one of the closest relationships that he had with someone here on earth. It's the relationship with a guy named Peter, one of his disciples named Peter, also known as Simon or Simon Peter. Now, Peter wasn't just close to Jesus, he was really close to Jesus. He wasn't just part of the inner circle, he was part of the inner circle. In fact, several times throughout Scripture, we talk about him breaking away with Peter, James, and John, or John, James, and Peter. And Peter was part of that inner circle. So Jesus really had thought a lot of Peter and had a lot of plans for Peter. But Peter also needed a lot of developing to get where Jesus wanted him to go. Now, to understand this, to understand the patience that would have been required that Jesus would have had to show Peter, we need to understand a little more about Peter. So let me give you just a little background on him. See, Peter was the very first disciple that Jesus ever recruited. We looked at that just several weeks ago at this point. But as we looked at that, we recognized that Peter was also a fisherman. Now, that was kind of significant. You have to understand the fishing community that Peter would have been part of here. Peter, in this situation, we had to understand that the fishermen were typically considered manly men. Okay, fishermen were guys that were, running with Sasquatch. They were growing beards and wearing flannel. I mean, they were eating, the beef jerky. I mean, this is the type of guy that Peter probably was. He was a manly man. They probably had bad tempers. all right? Fishermen in their day were known to have bad tempers, and probably when they spoke, their language was probably a little more rated R than it was PG or PG-13, all right? Their language probably was not the best in the world. Traditionally, when it came to fishermen, this wasn't necessarily across the board, but traditionally they were basically kind of uneducated men, but they would have had great street smarts. They would have had great wits and very creative in that. They were stereotypically just men of action. They were not going to take anything very physical, very get after it. Were unafraid of others. And Peter lived this out. I mean, you can see this as Jesus interacted with people. I mean, one of the greatest examples is the night Jesus was arrested. I mean, who's the guy that pulled out his sword and cut off a guy's ear? It was Peter. So he was kind of living, he's kind of demonstrating that. So Peter was probably this very, very street smart guy. Very manly man type of guy. A guy who would act first and ask questions later. A guy who wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. And when Peter showed emotions, they were probably emotions of aggression or energy as opposed to being vulnerable. He was not going to show this vulnerable side in his life. Now, throughout the 3 years that Peter and Jesus did life with each other, Jesus was continually trying to develop Peter as much as possible. In fact, you could say that with all of his disciples. He was all about developing them. And even as they made mistakes, and even as they did silly things or said dumb things, he was about developing them, not diminishing them. But we have a phenomenal example of that between Jesus and Peter. And this episode happened kind of in 2 segments. The first segment happened right before Jesus was going to be arrested and headed off to the crucifixion. But then the second part of it happened after Jesus had been resurrected. But let's set the story up and let's set up what's about to happen here. You see, Jesus, the very final night before he was betrayed and arrested, he did the Last Supper, as we call it, in the upper room. We've talked a lot about that the past couple weeks. And after they were done there, they were headed to the Garden of Gethsemane, and Jesus looks at his disciples, these guys who had given up everything to follow him. And he basically says this to them, Mark 14:27. He says, "You will all fall away." He looks at these guys who have been following him for years and says, "Look, things are about to get tough. They're about to get rough. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I already know, guys, you are all going to fall away." But Peter, being Peter, was kind of the first to respond. And look what he said to Jesus here in this next verse. Peter declared, "Even if all fall away, I will not." I was kind of laughing when I read that verse because I just think, just this, Peter being this like aggressive guy. And he's like, even if all these losers, even if all these guys act like scared little kids and they run away, Jesus, I won't run away. And I always think, what were the other guys thinking? When they hear Peter say these, oh, there Peter goes again, spouting off again with this. But let's continue on. Jesus said this. He says, "I tell you the truth, Peter. Today, yes, even tonight, before the rooster crows twice, Peter, you yourself will disown me. Not once, not twice, but 3 different times." Well, kind of with that, Peter got a little bit indignant, to be honest with you. He just emphatically said, "Jesus, no. It doesn't matter. Jesus, I'm going to come after it. I'm going to be there. Jesus, I'm all in here. I left everything. I'm about being on your team. I mean, I got your back through thick and thin. No way I'm running away like a scared little kid. It's not going to happen." In fact, in Mark 14:31, look what Peter said back to Jesus. "Even if I have to die with you, Jesus, even if I have to die, I'll never disown you." Bold, brash, man, just going after it here. Bold and brash, a man of action, the type of guy that would probably win a beard growing contest. I mean, this guy was just like, "No, Jesus, I will not run away. Never will I do that." Well, then Jesus is arrested. They took him away to the Sanhedrin, to the Jewish ruling council, and Peter kind of followed, but a little bit at a distance. And he went into this courtyard that was next to the high priest area where they were probably holding Jesus in there. And in this area, there were probably some people milling about. There was a fire, and people would be warming themselves next to the fire. And just a few minutes later, after this conversation that Peter had with Jesus, look what happens here. Mark 14, beginning in verse 66. While Peter was below in the courtyard, so below the area where Jesus was being held, one of the servant girls of the high priest came by. Now, I can imagine this may have freaked Peter out a little bit. He goes, she's connected with the high priest. The high priest is trying to do something to Jesus here. But still, remember, bold, brash, burly, manly man, running with Sasquatch type of guy. One of the girls from the high priest came by. When she saw Peter warming himself, she looked closely at him. You also were with that Nazarene, Jesus, she said. But Peter denied it. In fact, Peter didn't just deny it, he ran from it. Look at this next verse. He says, I don't know. I don't understand what you're talking about. We're not speaking the same language here. We're not connecting on all cylinders here. I don't know or understand what you're talking about, he said. And he went out into the entryway, so he left the warmth of the fire to get away from people. He ran from this first denial, strike one. The servant girl kind of was still hanging around down there, and I imagine she kept looking over at Peter and then looked back at the people and was whispering with the people and looking back at Peter. And then look what she says again. Look what happens here again. This fellow is one of them. And again, he denied it. I will never disown you. I will die before I disown you. But again, he denied what this little servant girl, this lady, said to him. Strike two. A little time passes. I imagine Peter's mind is just running, just racing with what's going on with Jesus, and the people are over kind of milling about, and I'm sure just with all the commotion that's happened, they keep kind of glancing over going, I think he might be. You think he is? No, I don't know if he is or not. I think what he is. But then look at what the group said to him. Mark 14, verse 70 says this, surely, they look at Peter and say, surely you're one of them, for you're a Galilean. You're from the same area that Jesus is from. You've got to be part of his group. You traveled in here with him. And then I imagine that fisherman's temper kind of welled up in Peter just a little bit. And he kind of starts to get, muscle up and man up on him just a little bit and starts to yell this at him. Look at these next verses. And then what he says to them, I don't know this man you're talking about. Strike three. Right after he yells those words at the people standing around, look what happens this next verse. Immediately, the rooster crowed the second time. And then Peter remembered. He remembered. He remembered the word Jesus had spoken to him before the rooster crows twice. You will disown me, not once, not twice, but three times. And then this manly man, this rough, tough, action-oriented man, look what he did. This next verse. And he, Peter, broke down and he wept. He'd blown it. After all this, I will die before I disown you. He had blown it. Peter, one of Jesus' closest friends, one of his closest confidants. Peter, who said, Jesus, I will die before I disown you. Disowned him not once, not twice, but three different times, just as Jesus had said. Now, if you've been with us the past couple of weeks, you know what happened. Jesus was convicted of blasphemy. He was publicly flogged, humiliated, spat on. He was crucified on the cross, and he died. And then what we celebrated last week was Easter, was Resurrection Day, the day we celebrate that Jesus defeated death and he came back to life. And after he came back to life, Jesus, he interacted with the disciples many, many, many times. He walked with them. He talked with them. He sat down and ate with them. He laughed and cried with them some more. And I can just imagine in all those situations, Peter remembering, I don't know him. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand what you're saying. Those 3 denials, not the 1, not the 2, but the 3 different denials, and the guilt he felt, the shame he felt. Him thinking about what Jesus was thinking here. And just think about it. Jesus had given everything to Peter. He spent years developing Peter, taking the difficult situations and showing him patience and not belittling him, not diminishing Peter, but in that it's all the stuff that Jesus did and sacrificed for. Peter still didn't stand up for it. He didn't defend him. In fact, Peter went so far the opposite direction that he denied even knowing this man. He was given everything to Peter. Jesus had every right. He had every right to just write Peter off. I'm done with you. You blew it. I even told you were going to do it. I told you were going to make the mistake. I told you were going to go on that path. I told you were going to blow it. I told you were going to end up in jail. I told you were going to end up with an alcohol problem. I told you that this wasn't going to work out. I told you. But Jesus wasn't about diminishing people. Jesus was about developing them. In fact, one day after Jesus had been resurrected, Peter had gathered some of the other disciples together, and they would decide one night to go out and go fishing. And they launched their boat out, and that night as they cast their nets, there just really wasn't a whole lot going on. There weren't many fish that they were catching with their nets. And they started to head in a little bit that evening, and as the sun started to come up a little bit, some guy on the shore yells out to them, "Throw your nets on the other side of the boat." And, they really didn't have to listen to him. They don't even probably sure why they were doing it. But they decided, what's it going to hurt to throw our nets on the other side of the boat? So they took their nets and they threw them on the other side of the boat. And as they pulled them up, the catch of fish was so huge. They couldn't even lift it up into the boat. And as they're fighting and struggling with this, John, who was with them at the point, looks at Peter and says, "Peter, it's Jesus. Peter, look, it's Jesus. Jesus is the one he's the one who told us to throw the nets on the other side of the boat." And Peter, just in his impulsive nature, just what he did is he wrapped his clothes around him that he had taken off as he was fishing, jumps in the water and swims into shore. And what happens next is an unbelievably perfect example of Jesus not diminishing someone, but developing him. I want you to watch this video and check this out. Here's kind of what happened between Jesus and Peter.
Jesus, is that you? You're alive. I can't believe you're alive. Okay, I was in the boat and I wasn't catching any fish, okay? But I heard this voice and the voice said, "Cast your net to the other side." And so I'm thinking, I'm a fisherman. I know what I'm doing, but I'm not catching any fish, And so I throw that net over there and then a gaggle of fish pop into that net and I'm going, this is a total miracle. Who could have done that? I need to know who told me to throw the net to the other side. And boom, I look up and there is you. You're looking at me on the seashore going, "It is I, the Lord, and you're alive. I can't believe you're alive. This is awesome. Andrew, get out of the boat. Come on."
Peter.
Yeah.
Do you love me?
Yes, I love you. I love you. You're alive. This is so great.
Good, then feed my sheep.
Andrew, get out of the boat. Come on, man. It's him.
Peter.
Yeah.
Do you love me?
I love you, yes. And I'm so sorry about that rooster clucking. I had no idea what that meant, but I do now. I'm better for it, all right? Okay?
Then feed my sheep.
Andrew, I'm smiling, but I'm serious. Come on, get out of the boat. It's him.
Peter.
Yeah.
Do you love me?
Jesus, mere words cannot describe the passion that I have for you. I love you. You know everything. I love you.
Good. Good. Then feed my sheep.
I didn't even know you had livestock. that is so like you, though. There's something new about you all the time. That's what I love about you.
Peter,
Yeah.
do you remember the morning the ladies went to the tomb?
Yeah. We're all in the upper room trying to figure out what to do next, because we thought you were dead. You were dead, and we're trying to figure all that out, And Mary comes running up, and Mary's like saying, beehive, beehive, beehive. And I'm thinking, I'm allergic to bees. Like, keep them out, you know what I'm saying? But as she kept getting closer, I heard her correctly. She was saying, he's alive, he's alive, he's alive. And we're going, who's alive, who's alive? And she said, she was at the tomb, and the tomb was empty, and she said that there was an angel there, and the angel said, go tell the disciples and Peter that everything is okay, he is risen. And so me and John, we hightailed it down there, and if John says he beat me, he's totally lying, all right? I beat him, FYI, all right, And we get down there, and I'm looking in that tomb, and it is empty. There's nothing in there, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what does this mean? What does this mean? And John is right there. John is so good with words. He should write a book. He is so good with words. And John said, don't you get it, Peter? This is everything Jesus said he was going to do, and you did it, and it's done. Let's go. This is so great.
Wait, the angel said what?
Go tell the disciples and Peter that everything is okay. He is risen. You've risen. Let's go.
He said what?
Go tell the disciples and Peter. Go tell the disciples and Peter. You said my name. Why did you say my name?
Peter, that's grace.
No, I don't deserve that, because that night people kept coming up to me asking me if I belonged to you, if I was with you, and I kept denying you left and right, all right? No, it'll take me my whole life to make up for what I did. It was unforgivable for what I did.
No. What I did on the cross was meant to take what is unforgivable and make it forgivable. That's my grace. It's not about you. It's always about me. That's grace, Peter.
That's grace. That's love. That's patience. That's agape. That's developing, not diminishing. Patience, having self-control in a difficult situation with people. And this is Jesus demonstrating agape. Patience. To be inconvenienced, to be wrong, to be taken advantage of. Not to get upset, not to get angry. And here's the thing you need to recognize with what just happened there. Jesus wasn't accepting of Peter's poor behavior. Jesus wasn't accepting of the mistakes that Peter made, but he was patient. He was patient with how he responded to Peter's poor behavior. Jesus was all about developing people, not diminishing them. And as we wrap this up today, and this is going to go pretty quick, I just want to give you a couple action items. A couple things to really pull out of the way Jesus interacted with Peter as he showed him this patience. And I want to encourage you with this. After the service today on our Facebook page, there will be some things posted, some discussion questions. And I want to encourage you, challenge you to look at them on your own, to look at them with your family, to look at them with your small group, with a group of people, and have a discussion about these types of things, because there's so much more we could pull out of this than what I'm going to pull out right now. But let me give you some very practical things that Jesus showed us here to help us demonstrate how to develop as opposed to diminish a person. And the first thing is this. Number one, never correct in a way that diminishes dignity. Never correct in a way that diminishes dignity. Never reprimand or admonish someone in a way that diminishes dignity. And, there's so many ways we can show this with people and accomplish this with whether it's with our kids or whether it's our coworkers or whether it's employees or a sports team or a spouse or whoever. But here's just a good rule of thumb. One of the ways we can accomplish this is to reprimand in private. I just look at what Jesus did with Peter. I mean, who was in this conversation with Jesus and Peter? No one. They were alone. Jesus took this moment where he finally had a moment alone with Peter, to love Peter into the position that Jesus needed him to take. And Jesus wanted Peter to be one of the key leaders of his movement, of the Jesus movement, of what we now call the church. And he developed and he didn't diminish. But a second thing that he did here is he was constructive with correction. We need to be constructive with the correction. We need to, when it comes to patience, to self-control in a difficult situation, or we're dealing with issues, are developing or diminishing. In fact, that's the question. Are we developing people? Or are we diminishing people? Are we developing people? Or are we diminishing people? Are we just lashing out with little or no self-control? Are we being constructive and hoping for a better outcome? A better outcome in the future. And what did Jesus continually point Peter to do? He said, feed my sheep. Do the things I've taught you to do. Feed my sheep. Do the things that I've taught you to do. Jesus wasn't diminishing him and his mistakes and diminishing him in the way he hurt Jesus, but he was developing him. And look, I look at this and think about as the most excellent way to live as we're developing people, not diminishing them. What gives you a better outcome with people? What's going to give someone a better outcome? Ripping them a new one what? You decide what that is. But ripping them a new one or protecting someone's dignity as we demonstrate patience, showing self-control in a difficult situation. And look, when we can correct someone and keep their dignity, it keeps them motivated. It keeps them heading in the right direction. It helps them to continue to develop and grow. The public floggings, the tongue lashing, the screaming at our kids in the aisles of Walmart or any situation where we're like embarrassed. What that does to people is so many times it doesn't get the desired outcome you want, because what that does is that they're so embarrassed and they're so ashamed, and sometimes they're so angry because of the way they're being treated that they completely miss the point of what they need to do to develop. But when we protect someone's dignity, when we correct them in private, when we're constructive in our correction, when we're more about developing than diminishing, we can see people grow and develop into the people God wants them to be. Why? Because we're demonstrating agape. And here's a rule of thumb I try to live by. And look, I'm nowhere perfect in this. Talk to my kids, talk to the people I work with. I'm not perfect in this. But one of the things I heard many, many years ago, and I think Jesus demonstrated over and over and over, is just as a rule of thumb, there's a ratio to live by. And this ratio is to give 3 praises to every one admonishment, 3 praises to every one reprimand, 3 praises to every one correction. And this isn't about keeping tally marks. This isn't about, I've only given 2, so I can't correct them. It isn't about that at all. It's more about the heartbeat of saying, do you have a habit of encouragement? Do you have a habit of feeding into a person's life? And let me tell you, when you make that a habit in your life, when you've been about praising people for the things they do and the things they do well, what that allows you to do is it opens up the door for correction in ways you would never imagine. Because you've built into them, you developed them instead of diminishing them. But then the second thing we can pull back from this that we saw Jesus do is number 2, is we need to help people get back on the horse. When someone falls off, when someone disappoints, when someone disappoints not just 1 time, but 2 times, but 3 times, but whatever, he did not even 3 times. Remember, when someone falls off the horse, we need to help them get back on. I just love what Jesus did with Peter in that scenario. He looked at Peter and says, Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, yes, I do. And he says, feed my sheep. Peter, do you love me? Then feed my sheep. Get back on the horse. If you love me, then get back on the horse, then get back on the horse, then get back on the horse. It was Jesus' gentle nudge to say, Peter, you blew it, but I still believe in you. Peter, you blew it not just once, not just twice, but 3 different times you blew it. But Peter, I still believe in you. You can do this. You can make this happen. You are capable. I need you to lead. I need you to guide. I need you to instruct. I need you to get back on the horse. When it comes to patience in our lives, are we developing people? Or are we diminishing people? And when people fail us, when our patience are tested, we need to have a goal to love that person, not just emotionally, but love that person with action. To love that person as a verb and to nudge that person to get back on the horse. The question we have to ask is, are we developing people? Or are we diminishing people? I mean, in our families, as our patience is being tested, are we able to lovingly say, you blew it, but I believe in you, you can do it? In our jobs, as we work with people, are we able to say, hey, you blew it, but you can do it. Let's get back on the horse. And part of people get back on the horse is being constructive. Are we emphasizing? Are we emphasizing? We'll throw this back up on the screen. Are we emphasizing? Are we developing people? Are we diminishing people? We're offering that constructive correction. Again, this isn't about being soft. This isn't about being a doormat. It's about respect. It's about dignity. It's about the values that we embrace as a way of life. And it's the determination to behave in a way that flows from our view of our people, that flows from our concern for people, regardless of how we may feel about them. Because it's our example in life. What Jesus did on the cross was meant to take what was unforgivable and make it forgivable. And Jesus is looking at every single one of us and not wanting to diminish us, but to develop us. And I pray that for you and for I, that we can work on agape. Love is patient. Are we developing people? Or are we diminishing people? Would you pray with me? Jesus, your patience is truly beyond belief. To lovingly point at Peter and say, Peter, this is going to happen. I'm going to warn you ahead of time that this is going to happen. And him to even know it and but yet not to be able to head it off, but still in that situation, Jesus, you helped him get back up. You maintained his dignity. You helped him, Jesus, to develop into the person you wanted him to be. And God, as we pursue the most excellent way, the way that you, Jesus, demonstrated, and the way that you taught us to live, I pray that you would really help us. That you would help us to show love to someone in a difficult situation. Even if we've been wronged, even if we've been taken advantage of, God, that you could show us the way to not diminish that person, but to develop. To help them maintain their dignity. To help them. To help them get back up on their horse. Lord God, I thank you for the love that Jesus has shown us. And I thank you, God, that you've given us the example of Jesus Christ for us to follow, to pursue, and hopefully live out in our life. I praise things in the name of Jesus. Amen. Today, if you made any type of spiritual decision, would you let us know? One of the best ways to do that during this season is just go to our website, monettecommunity.church, and go to the Contact tab on the right-hand side of the page. There's several different places there. You can just send prayer requests. You can say if you made a decision for Jesus. You can just send other information that you may want us to know about. We'd appreciate that. Those things are confidential and just come straight to the staff. So, man, let us know about that if you would. You know, if you are part of MCC and you want to continue to support the ministry as well as to honor God and worship God through giving, we've tried to make that as simple as easy during this time as possible. You could mail a check to the church if you'd like, or one of the easiest ways is just to go to our website, monettecommunity.church, and go to our Give tab. You can either text to give or give straight online there and sign up for those things there. And listen, if you're new to MCC, please know this isn't directed at you. It's just a way with the things that are unusual during this time that we're kind of guiding, directing people who might want to worship God through giving in that way. I hope during this season where life is just different, as we try to figure out how to do life in a little bit different situation, that this information, that this guidance, this biblical guidance of what agape love is making an impact in your life and an impact in your family's life. And I do hope and pray that as we pursue patience with people. That you and your life, you and your family, you with your jobs can work on developing people, not diminishing people, and living the way of love. I love you guys. I am praying for you, and I hope and pray you have a fantastic week. Take care.